All those telling the stories about Latina women marrying white men and getting their papers fixed, then changing their whole views about what's right for Latinos and turning against their own people and voting against their own selves. It's not just them. I got a story for you. I've been hearing a lot of stories from y'all Latinas upset with other Latinas who married American men to get their papers fixed when they were here illegally. I hear you, believe me. I hear your pain, but they're not the only ones. I'm gonna tell you a little story about me. I'm an American citizen. I was born up north. My mother is white, my dad is Mexican. Although my dad did come here illegally, he does have a backstory. My grandmother is Kickapoo Indian and she was born by the Mississippi River. This is his country, he is indigenous. I wanna add this in here. Although my father was illegal, he did become an American citizen, probably when we were like 12. And he helped several of his family members fix their papers too. And I believe that was under Reagan. Let's go back to this. I went back to Detroit when I was 18. I was going through a lot in my life. There's so much I could tell you and I will be writing about it because my story is very unique. It's not like anything you ever read before. Anyhow, I went through a traumatic experience when I went to Detroit with the Catholic Church. It was traumatic. I will explain it to you one day. But when I got out of that experience, I ended up meeting my ex-husband at a club called Club International. I think that's what it's called. We didn't have phones back then. He bought me a rose. He remembered my number and he called me. Again, I had just got out of a traumatic situation and we ended up dating. We ended up getting a little apartment together and all that. And when I met him, though, he was living in a house with about 8 to 10 to 12. There was a lot of people in that house. All of them were illegal. And I came back to San Antonio, and he went to Mexico because he needed to do a surgery. But his parents weren't going to be okay with him marrying me because I had just had my daughter, and they just were going to accept that. So I just said, okay. There was a firefighter in Laredo that was in love with me that wanted to marry me that I could have married. But I always make the wrong choices. It's the story of my life. That's why I'm so scared to get in a relationship. So he's in Mexico and he's telling me he's not going to be able to marry me because his parents weren't going to be okay with it. And I'm like, oh, fine, whatever. I'm making $13 an hour. This is back in 1993. I was making good money. So I really didn't need him. I wanted to say this really quick. When I say his parents weren't going to be okay with it, is because of the traditional views of a Latina family. I had my daughter. She was only 2 months old. He adopted my daughter when she was 3 months. This is his daughter. But I can tell you this, his parents, after they got to know me, they loved me. And my kids tell me that his mother is always asking about me. So I left an impression on his family. I taught them a lot about sharing and about giving because there was an odd thing going on in that family where I couldn't even get an apple out of the refrigerator. But again, that's another story. The firefighter ended up coming. He knew where I lived and he's like, no, I'm going to take care of you and your daughter and all that. I wish I could find him. I wish I could. But there's a story to this. I'm going to explain it. But I didn't because my ex-husband ended up sending me a telegram because, again, I blocked him. I was like, I don't need you. I've always been in control there. So he sent me a telegram and said, I'm sorry. I want to marry you. Fine. So I'm gullible and I haven't seen the guy in Laredo in forever. That was like a high school sweetheart kind of thing. And so gullible me read the telegram. I thought that, oh my God, that is so cute. Although my ex-husband is not romantic. He has no sense of romance, no sense of planning or anything. It was a very boring marriage. Anyways. So I felt bad and typical me felt bad about somebody instead of my own happiness. I went and said, I will marry you. So he came across the border illegally again. My father was not having it. He was not going to let me marry him. My father did not show up at our court or anything. So anyways, we get married. He takes me to Mexico. I live in Mexico for about a year and then I get pregnant with my son. And I'm very lonely there. I'm just lonely. I miss my family. I am used to being around my family. And so because I was gone so long, when I came back, my dad was so happy to see me. He was so, so happy to see me. So my ex-husband had to follow me when I came back. So I came back illegally again. Anywho, my dad got him into a job to be into electrical and he became a master electrician. And it's not without my effort because I have always been that woman who's going to support her husband, whoever her partner is, to get him to be the best they can be. So I'm the one who got him to get the first raise. I'm the one who told him to take classes to become a journeyman, and then the steps up. He became a master electrician by the time he was 29. He was making almost $100,000 a year. It was my turn to be something, and this is when who he really was came out. He was not going to support my dreams. He didn't even offer to help pay for my classes. I had to get my first credit card and pay for my classes. Now, at this time, I've already helped him become an American citizen. At that time, I think it was 3 years and then 5 years or something like that. I had already did all that stuff. So when it was my turn, everything was a competition. I was in college, it was a competition. I got into real estate, I was making more money than him. He could not handle it. It was a fight all the time. I was miserable in my marriage. That macho machismo came out. He wasn't ever jealous of other men. The guy loved other men to look at me, which was really odd. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at this car go very slow outside, and that's kind of scary. So it was weird like that. He would make me dress up in these sexy clothes, would make me wear no bra, and trot me around any place so people would look at me. It was uncomfortable. I was not happy in my marriage at this time anyway. So I ended up getting a divorce from this man because of the trauma he put me through. I'm not going to go into every detail yet because I'll have a story soon. So just to get into the story, because there's so much I could tell you about him, but I'm going to tell you what I'm here for. He has become radicalized. He did vote for Donald Trump. He radicalized one of my sons. This is why I don't talk to my oldest son. People ask all the time. I can't. He hates so many people. He has a lot of hate in his soul, and I don't blame him because I know that hate is taught. It's not inside you. People teach you to hate. I have 3 other kids that they love just like me. And unfortunately, my 2 daughters don't talk to their dad. They just don't have a relationship with him because they can't handle the hate. They love him unconditionally forever, but he doesn't love them unconditionally. But that's the typical mentality of somebody who would support Trump, the macho machismo shit. This man had a woman that had given him everything, took him from nothing and helped him get to the top and pushed him. And then when it was my turn, he was not there. Super judgmental and talked really bad about me to my kids after the divorce. But I never talked bad about my ex-husband. Never to my kids. And he never could believe it. He never could, because my kids would tell them when he was little, Mom didn't talk about you. They're adults, they can tell their truth. I always knew, I don't know why, because I always had a good spiritual feeling about the world. And I always knew my kids will grow up and they're going to see on their own who their dad is. I don't need to put that in their head. Anyhow, he's been radicalized. He thinks these immigrants that are here should come here legally, although he came here illegally more than one time. Or he stayed over his visit of his visa multiple times. So it's not just Latina women. There are Mexican men also that come here, marry Americans, and they don't even want to fight for their own people after they're citizens. It's hypocritical, it's sad, but it is what it is. Yes, he has lost his Mexican card, but he's lost something even more. He's lost the 2 girls that love him tremendously because of his radicalization. They can't talk to him. He feels superior to him. He couldn't even stay and have dinner after one of his daughters got their master's degree because of his anger in himself that a woman can never be as smart as a man. He has a lot of the characteristics of someone who would follow Donald Trump. Also, you need to know this. The current wife that he has, he fixed her papers too, thanks to me. It started with me, then him, and then her. See how that works? It's sad. I brought up many points, but the main point that I wanted to bring up is that he's a hypocrite. So there you are. It's just not Latina women doing it. Latino men do it too. And I think that they're probably the worst than the Latino girls. We're used to women doing what their husbands say. White women do it all the time. That's why so many of them voted against Kamala and they voted against themselves, because a lot of the things that Donald Trump's doing is affecting women, and women are a minority class. So I just wanted to let you know that men are hypocrites too. Illegal aliens that become American citizen men are hypocrites too. Probably the worst ones.